Hello, I'm Charlotte and this is Books and Bargains. I'm coming to you today with my March reading wrap up. As you can tell, I'm still not fully over this illness, and so I'm going to try and film this quickly and non-rambly, and yeah, we'll see how that goes. So in March, I read 11 books, and that turned out to be 3,923 pages, which for the first month this year is kind of back on par with my reading last year, as last year I read 12 books and 3,968 pages. So yeah, pretty much on par with that. I did only DNF one book this month, and I've said before I will only really talk about DNFs here if they are kind of really problematic. This was just one that was not for me. If you watch my vlogs, you'll know which one I DNF'd. I had made a little private goal to myself that this year I was going to read more non-fiction, and sadly that didn't happen this month, as this month I read 20% non-fiction and 80% fiction, compared to last year's 25% non-fiction and 75% fiction. My books were split this month across 9% digital, which is Kindle, which is usually NetGalley-ARCs, 45% print and 45% audio. I have decided this year, because there are a lot of books that I read kind of a hybrid of print and audio, I'm not really sure how to put that here, whether to do a kind of separate category for the ones that I read as both. Let me know below if that's something you'd want to know, because at the moment I'm just using Storygraph for these stats. That is compared to last year when I read 17% digital, 75% print and 8% audio. I'm hoping that adds up. My head doesn't think that it should, but that's what Storygraph told me. So I'm very happy to report that this was a 4.2 star average, split across 2 2.5 stars, 3 4 stars and 5 5 stars, 2 of which were rereads. You'll understand why. Compared to last year, where I had a real mix, I had a 3.75 star average, 1 being 1 star, 1 2.5 star, 1 3 star, 1 3.5 star, 3 4 stars, 4 4.5 stars and 1 5 star. So without further ado, let's just get into the books that I read. This month I am just going to go in the order that I read them, but let me know down below whether you prefer order read or lowest stars up to highest stars. They're the two ways that I see these done, and yeah, I don't have any preference either way, so I'd rather know what you guys want to watch. So the first book that I finished in March was Magma by this author. I am not going to even attempt to pronounce that and butcher it. This book I gave a 4 star, and this was a wild ride. It is only a short book. It's only 192 pages, and actually it does have a lot of blank pages in between each chapter, so it felt like I'd say even half of that. This book, I really don't know how to describe this one. It was kind of weird and wonderful. It was Lily King blurbed it, and I don't think I can beat this. A compulsive, propulsive debut about a woman's exploration of love and sex and the tale of her undoing. And this, I think I said in my vlog when I talked about finishing this one, that it was very reminiscent of kind of night crawling, in the way that it was a very serious subject matter. There is trigger warnings as long as my arm for this one, and yet our narrator was quite naive and young, and through a lot of this, I feel like I shouldn't say that I'm a seasoned old woman, but I am a 32-year-old now. And this was really uncomfortable, because some of the things that she did and said, I saw kind of 18, 19-year-old me in her, and I just wanted to give her a hug. Like I say, very dark subject matter, but I'm very glad that I read this one. and I will definitely look out for more from this order. I think this was a cracking debut. But yeah, like I said, not one that I'd recommend to everybody because it was very dark and a lot of content warnings, but I'm glad that I read it, and yeah, it's one of those that's going to take me a while to kind of get my thoughts on it into place, I think. Yeah, this was out in July last year, so I do apologise. Thank you so much to Book Break for sending me, and I'm just sorry it took me so long to read. I then finished Mortem by Patricia Cornwell. This was for the prompt of a book released in the year that you were born on the Pop Sugar Reading Challenge, and I really enjoyed this one. Yes, it was quite dated. It was quite interesting because a lot of the themes in this is kind of before DNA was really established, and so I feel like if this was written today, the killer would have been caught so much easier. However, what I really enjoyed about this one, this is your typical police procedural, but like I said again in the vlog style wrap up, I do feel a little bit like I'm repeating myself, so I'm waiting to see if people actually still enjoy these sit down wrap ups or whether I should just stick to doing it in the vlog. However, what I did think about this book, to say that it was 30 years old, there were some language revolving mainly around mental health that I don't think was appropriate and wouldn't be used today. But actually, the kind of feminism in this one, and Kay Scarpetta, our medical examiner, is a woman very much in a boy's world. I think that this is probably way ahead of its time because I obviously didn't read anything like that until now, and I'm 32, and yeah, I am going to hopefully carry on with the Kay Scarpetta series when I can get my hands on some more. I then read Get a Life, Chloe Brown, mostly via Audible. This was Audible, yeah, audiobook. This was for the sister along that I was taking part with in Victoria. However, I didn't actually manage to make any of the live shows. Get a Life, Chloe Brown, I loved even more the second time round. I would have said before I started this reread that Chloe was my least favourite of the sisters, but actually I think I don't think now I can do a favourite, least favourite, middle. I think actually Danny may have slipped into third place now. And when I first read Get a Life, Chloe Brown, Chloe has fibromyalgia, and when I first read a lot of it, I couldn't relate, and I wasn't judgmental of the way that Chloe was portrayed, but I did think some things were exaggerated. And there's one point where she climbs a tree, and I remember at the time thinking, well, that was really silly for someone with fibromyalgia to do that, but I didn't kind of quite get into her head, and now I think I do, because my pain is a lot worse than it was the first time I read this. I do now understand doing silly things and pushing yourself, because I got on a trampoline last year with my nephew and then could barely walk for nearly a week. So yeah, I get that. And I think now that I am more further along with my own chronic illness, I think that I have more of the brain fog, so don't necessarily think as I'm doing things. Anyway, gave that a 5-star and really enjoyed it. As I'm filming this, yesterday I went to the works and they had this in the 3 for £6, so if you haven't given it a go yet, now could possibly be the time. I then listened to The Little Brooklyn Bakery by Julie Kaplan, and I gave this a 2.5 star. At points I wondered to myself why I didn't DNF, but I'm actually glad that I didn't, because I really enjoyed the food descriptions in this one, and I really liked our main character. I just didn't like the romance, and yeah, I was getting really frustrated with it at times. And also, one of the big draws for me for a Julie Kaplan book is the setting, and Brooklyn was neither here nor there for me. I really wanted to love this book and I didn't. That said, I didn't think it was a terrible book. I did finish it, so that got a 2.5 star. Then I read a second 2.5 star book, and this was The Hike by Lucy Clark, and I raved about Lucy Clark when I read what was the first one I read? You Let Me In, I think it was called. I thought it was the best thriller I'd ever read. I'd only just got into thrillers. And then I read The Castaways, which I did say in my vlog is the worst thriller that I've ever read. It's not. There is worse. If you've read Mary Q. Becker's... Oh, there's 2 books by Mary Q. Becker that I've read and hated them both. So, yeah. But The Castaways comes in close second because everything that this woman does in it is motivated by the fact that she doesn't have a child, and it's such a stereotypical view. Hated it. Maybe I'll do a book. I'm thinking now of all these thrillers that I really hated, and maybe I should rant about them somewhere, but this is not that video. I enjoyed this one. The setting was fantastic. Like, if you're somebody that really gets into the kind of creepy setting of a thriller, then this one I think you would enjoy, because they are on a remote mountain and it's talking about the like the air being so close and not being able to see your hand in front of your face. And I was there. Like I say, I stayed up way past my bedtime reading this one on a couple of nights. But I saw all the twists come in, which doesn't necessarily put me off a horror book always, a thriller. I don't mind if I see the twists come in. But not only did I see the twists come in, there was this kind of... They alluded to this, like, otherworldly presence that then turned out to have been made up. Now, that, to me, was almost like her waking up and it all being a dream. And... the ending was just so far-fetched. No. So that was 2.5 stars. I did read The Girls, or One of the Girls, last year by Lucy Clark. And yeah, I've just decided that Lucy Clark is not an author for me anymore. So yeah, that is that. I then read Take a Hint, Dani Brown. This is the companion novel to Chloe Brown. If you haven't read the Brown Sisters series, I would say that I am leaning more, if I'm going to read smut, and don't be fooled by these nice covers, these are spicy. I am leaning more towards, if I'm going to read spice and sex scenes, non-closed door sex scenes, I want it to be sapphic. However, all 3 of the Brown Sisters books feature male-female sex, and none of them made me cringe, which I don't know why, because I cringed at The Love Hypothesis, I cringed at The Kiss Quotient, I cringed at so many sex scenes, and yet these, even though they really go there, didn't make me cringe. So you could actually read all these in any order, but you know me, I like to read them in order. And so in Take a Hint, Dani Brown, we're following Dani, who is a PhD student, not really bothered about any serious relationships, but she is quite spiritual and believes in the goddess. Does it say? No, it just says Dani asks the universe for the perfect friend with benefits. Zafia is her friend who works as a security guard at the university where she's a PhD student. He's grumpy. They get on really well as friends, and then a video goes viral of the 2 of them and they agree to fake date, and we all know what happens with fake dating. Fake dating is one of my favourite tropes. I love it. And yeah, gave that a 5-star. I listened again mostly to this one via Audible when I was lying in my bed, unable to do anything really. That's how poorly I've been this last month. If I say that I read this book in this month, it's a bit of an exaggeration. I finished Girlhood by Carolyn Hayes, but I only had about 20-30 pages to go. This book has taken me a long time, and that's because of the content of it. This is a letter to her transgender daughter, and this book covers so much. It's split into parts. So Carolyn's daughter knew from a very young age that she was trans, and the family supported her in that decision. And Carolyn's a bit like me in the fact that she went academic on the whole thing, tried to do as much research as she could. She went to a transgender support group, and she actually says in the book that she realised after that wasn't her place to go. The family received a knock at the door. Someone has reported them to child services, and actually, I have never known a white author acknowledge their privilege as much as Carolyn does. She talks about how they spoke to a lawyer straight away, and this lawyer said to them, look, I need to ask you these questions. Are you white? Are you married? Do you have are you openly LGBTQ plus yourself? And all of these things, if she'd have said yes, would have increased the chances of having her daughter taken away. And this book is so, I don't know how it's so hard hitting and yet full of so much hope at the same time, if that makes sense. I think that everyone should read this, especially anyone that works with children or has children, or just anyone who is against trans rights should definitely read this, because I can't understand why people are so hateful towards each other. And yeah, this book, I don't normally rate non-fiction, but I couldn't give this any less than a 5-star. And Charlie, I will definitely be sending this to you now. I then listened to The King is Dead via Scribd, and I have said this in my vlog, but I was sold this as Black Gossip Girl. This to me was not Gossip Girl. I also said in my vlog that this reminded me of A Curse So Dark and Lonely. No, this reminds me of Defy the Night by Bridget Kemmerer, but less, it's not fantasy, it's not like, I don't know, it just gave me that kind of vibe rather than actually being anything like that. So this is set in our world in Buckingham Palace, and James's dad, the king, has died. Now, James and his brother are mixed race, as their dad was white and their mom was black. Their mom has never been accepted as the queen by the British public, and now James, as a black teenager ascending the throne, he's also queer, and that makes him kind of prime suspect. So prime target for hate. So all the way through the book, we're trying to find out who is exposing his secrets. And yeah, there's a lot of things that happen along the way. I don't know for definite, but I think this is loosely based on certain things that were said towards Meghan Markle. At one point in here, there's a comment about an uncle asking Catherine, no, Catherine's not their mom. What's their mom's name? Anyway, asking their mom what shade of brown the twins would be when they're born. And I'm pretty sure that was something that I think the late Prince Philip had asked Meghan Markle when she was pregnant. So the only similarities to Gossip Girl in this is that the journalist is called somebody Buckley, and I know the Buckleys are part of Gossip Girl, and that there is a pool party. That's the only kind of Gossip Girl reference I could get. So this did take me a little while to get into, because I was expecting those Gossip Girl vibes, but I think that's a disservice to this book. I think it's a really great YA novel, and I will be putting that in a box to send to Victoria. Victoria, if you're watching this, I still need to find the other books that I put aside for you, but they will be on their way soon. You love how chaotic I am. Oh, and if I didn't mention, I gave that a 4-star. Another 5-star book that I read and listened to at the same time is Sarah Vaughan's Anatomy of a Scandal. This was fantastic. I wanted something gritty to get my teeth into at the time. I had been listening to a lot of romance, and I was like, no, it's time for me now to get something a bit more gritty. And this was perfect for that. We are following a number of characters in the case of a government minister who has been accused of sexually assaulting a colleague in a lift. Now, the argument is that they were having a consensual sexual relationship before this incident, so it's his word against hers. we don't just follow, although his case is the main, hang on, we are losing the light in here. Should I turn it up a little bit? Oh, wrong way. Oh. Is that better? Although his case is the main plot of the story, we don't really follow a lot of him. We follow the lawyer defending him. We follow his wife. And we also follow a university student from his university days at Oxford University. And this is really a kind of scathing look at the kind of Eton boys club mentality. And yeah, this was fantastic. It kept me guessing the whole time, and I really enjoyed seeing the different perspectives, and I'm definitely going to read more Sarah Vaughan. And last but by no means least, I listened to Rainbow Grey, Battle for the Skies, and this was just what I needed. If you haven't read any of this middle grade series, I would highly, highly recommend it. We follow Rainbow Grey as she comes to terms with her powers as a weatherling and takes on battles to save our sky, basically. This is the third book in the series, so I don't want to give too much away about this, other than it has beautiful sprayed edges. It will never leave my collection and is definitely a comfort read. What I did like about this book is at the beginning, the author summarises the past two books. So if you were reading this as the first one, you would know what was going on. And also, if you have a brain like a sieve like me, it just got me up to date with what I know that I'd already read in the last two before I read this one. And I gave that a 5-star. Again, listen to this. This was one of those books that I sat in the garden listening to. And it was just really, really enjoyable. So there you have it. Those are the books that I read in March. I cannot pick a favourite right now because they're all just so different. I will put up a picture here of my TBR challenge that I am joining in with Hannah from Ladette M and Olivia's Catastrophe. And yeah, I'm currently in the red. So April, fingers crossed I won't be. However, I'm already sat on 5 books hauled this month. All but, yeah, 3 of them have been sent to me, 2 which just won't go there. Which means that to get even back to neutral, I need to read 8 books this month. Although I have already finished 2 and DNF'd 1. So, yeah. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please don't hesitate to give me a thumbs up below and let me know what your favourite book of March was. And until next time, look after yourselves. Bye!